All right, recess adjourned. Budget hearing now. So, I'm going to open up to the public for any comments, first and foremost. Frank.
I went through this fairly thoroughly this morning. I've gone through it over the past few weeks, every morning on it too, but I went back over again this morning. And I'm going to make some proposed changes tonight, but my general comment is, it's like the last few years, gentlemen, it's a well-crafted budget. I think it adequately addresses a lot of the concerns in town. You're working with the constraints you have, and overall, there's really nothing that really glares or pops out or anything like that. So, good job, thank you for doing it. I'm still gonna try and cut some money out of it, but just because, you gotta, because at some point, somewhere, somebody's gotta start cutting some money out of some of this stuff. So, I'm gonna make a couple proposals tonight. You like those now, or do you wanna go?
Yeah, why don't you go
through
do them
line by
now?
line? Huh?
Yeah, why don't you do them now?
Okay, very easy then. I'm gonna propose that on line, I've got the new one here, for the old one. Very simply, that transfer from capital reserve, that we don't take 170 out of the road budget, that we take 100 out, that we reduce the amount of projects on roads to 100 this year, and that we only put 10 back in. The way the budget is right now is you're gonna take 170 out, you're gonna have a capital outlay of 170, and you wanna put 80 back in. That current road fund is approximately $200,000. So, taking 170 out leaves 30, put 80 back in, you're gonna wind up with 110 at the end of the year, round numbers. If you spent all 170 during the year. What I'm proposing is that I think that 170 in capital projects on the roads is ambitious. It's more, you've been doing about 80, 90 in that range. You're kind of doubling the scope of the projects this year that you have been doing for the last few years. Why not cut it back? And maybe it'll push some of the projects out a couple, 3 years, but it'll balance them out. And by cutting 70 out of what, so only take out 100, and only capital outlay 100, and only put 10 back in, again to get us 110, is that's effectively taking $140,000 out of the appropriated amount at the bottom. It also reduces our income by $70,000, so the real impact is $70,000, but it does take $140,000 out of that bottom line and gets it closer to where we, still more than we had last year, but a little bit closer. So that's one proposal. And the second proposal is that, and this is not necessarily for tonight, but something maybe to consider for the coming year, because I think it's a little late in the process to bring this up now, but to potentially increase the contingency line. You've currently got it at 5,000. Increase it to 10,000, or pick a number, and then decrease some of those lines that we chronically fund and then don't use. The welfare line is a good example. We put in 10,000 and we used $30 out of 10,000 this year. Cut that back to 4,000 or 5,000, but yet know that you've got it in the contingency. In other words, use the contingency line like insurance. Spread the risk. Your legal line is another one. You use 9,000, just shy of 10,000, and cut it at 15. Well, put that line at 10. That takes 5,000 out of the budget. But know that you're covered in the contingency line. If we ever really got slammed by some major expense during the year, the budget, it's probably going to go past the budget limits anyway, and you might want, but you can always call a special meeting if you really have an emergency situation that like all the roads in town wash out at once or something like that. It's a budget sleight of hand. It's not going to gain very many dollars in the bottom line of the budget, but it's a way to balance things out just a little bit more. And lastly, and I can wait till we get to the warrant articles, I think that at town meeting I'm going to oppose the $25,000 expenditure on creating a new fund for the cable fund for this reason. Personally I'm not opposed to the town, helping build out, townwide building out of a internet infrastructure, because it's just like, it's getting to be like a roads. It's a required public facility, but you guys don't have a deal yet. You don't know if you're really gonna need that 25,000 or not. You don't know which way Spectrum's gonna go. They might just they might say, no, we're not gonna build it out at all, and we'll have to go to another technology eventually. Or they're gonna go, we'll just go to a surcharge on the bills, and we won't require town participation, or they will require town participation, but you don't know that yet. So it's taking 25,000, it's on the bottom line of the budget, and putting it in an account. Now it sits there, it doesn't go away, and 3 years from now, when Spectrum, we do something else with Spectrum, we don't need it, we can fold it back in, and there's $25,000 coming back in out of that trust fund. But I really trying to keep the budget down, and that's what I'm trying to do. Mr. Whitmer said, cut earlier today, is that's one that I question. And I also know that I've talked to a few other citizens that did not show up tonight, that there is a feeling, and I personally don't agree with this, the feeling that if the folks that don't have internet now want internet, that they should pay for it. It's a good old Yankee kind of mentality. But I personally think that the town should support internet for all of our citizens in the entire town. Any way we can make that happen. But this particular is just kind of like throwing some money and hopefully it'll stick kind of thing. No offense, but it's if we knew for a fact that this was coming, then I'd probably agree with it. But since I don't think we have, unless there's something new that's changed since the last time it came up, I don't think we do. So those are the three proposals I have for this evening.
Thank you. Okay.
Well, I'll yield to Rose if she has any comments.
No, it's good. We'll go.
Okay.
All right, the three.
Well, we're the few, so I just wanted to make sure you had an opportunity.
Or Ed.
Or Ed. Okay. Question first. Are you going to go through? No, actually, my first question is the budget that was just handed out the same as what was put on the website? Yes. Okay.
Yeah, it should be the same one. Nothing made changes.
All right. So I have been communicating with you folks intermittently and most recently to offer some comments about the technicalities of budget that's in front of us. But, and I do have some comments about particular line items. But I do want to point out, and this is a copy for you folks, that as the budget stands right now, that according to my calculations, and this model now appears to work because it matches, it worked for last year in retrospect. This brings the tax rate up for Brookfield from 6.11 to 7.72, a 26% increase. Overall, and I'll give you my pages. So this is a summary of the estimated tax rate for 2019. Last year's tax rate from DRA's and the development of that. And the last page is where I'm heading with this, and that is the unfunded balance. The concern that I have is, and if you look at this form, this does not account for using any unrestricted fund balance money to buy down the tax rate, as you folks have done periodically over the years. Last year you took quite a bit of it, and right now it stands, according to the MS 535, the last number that I saw was almost $260,000 for unreserved fund balance. That's at that's a 9.2% of the general fund operating expenses as DRA calculates it. And if you recall, they recommend somewhere between 17 and 5% of that number. I ran through so I did put 100,000 into this to draw down the tax rate, and it works, and it brings it down to about 5%. I didn't print that one out. My concern is this. When that number was developed, this number here, it was with the expectation that this is I believe this is either the MS 535 or was in the tax rate number that they provided. I can check that. But that number that was used to set the tax rate for 2018 included $80,000 worth of expected revenue coming over from the trust fund for road and bridge projects. We didn't do that. You folks chose, because there was no expense, not to pull the money out of the trust fund. I don't know, I'm not deep enough into this to know how that's going to affect the unreserved fund balance calculation going into 2019. My fear is it's going to drop that number, but I don't know how DRA will take that into consideration, or if it's just off the chart, off of the board, if it's just not counted. I don't know. So as it stands right now, with taking no unreserved fund balance, we're at a 26% increase for the town, 10% overall, because the tax rate would go from 21.18 to 23.31. Again, that would also commensurately drop if you use some of the unreserved fund balance. So I also have some additional comments, specific line items. I'll wait for that, if you're going to go through line by line.
I wasn't planning to do a line by line.
Okay.
So if you have any line-specific questions, please.
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
I communicated with you via email about the Wakefield costs, the increases.
Yes.
So I didn't work up an analysis of percentages and so forth, but when they submitted their corrected bill,
Yes.
we ended up with a 13% increase from last year.
Mm-hmm.
And when I looked at it more carefully, there were several things in here that we've never had to share costs with. And, you know, even though it's not truly a shared cost sort of arrangement, that's how their worksheet works, is there's a proportionate share of a lot of costs. One of which is the we've never been assessed a capital reserve fund for the public safety building. They just made a large number of improvements there, and they paid for it with their own unreserved fund balance. And now they're adding a $50,000 capital reserve fund. Presumably it will, pass on the ballot. And that's going to cost us almost $6,800. But worse is, as I communicated with you before, for the first time ever, they assessed administrative charges on the capital reserve funds. And Teresa Williams was very clear to me that the Board of Selectmen in Wakefield had chosen to not do that. That is a small amount, it's only $3,500.
Yeah.
But it concerns me. So I'll express that. My recommendation to you by email was that I wouldn't pay the $3,500. I would advise them that we'll pay the rest. But, you know, the other thing that I did also look at in this, this is the public safety line item. Their public safety building cost last year, gross cost that they had in their budget was almost $80,000. This year, it's $99,200. Almost a $20,000 increase in that one line item. Well, they made it a bigger building. This is the operational cost that we share.
Yes.
I'm concerned about that, and I will express that to you and hope that something changes.
Any other input or questions on the budget? Any specific line items or? No? Ed? You're,
What Diane just said is kind of rolling around in my brain, I'm trying to figure out. So Wakefield has this building that they built, we have to help pay for it because we use the services. But do we have any say on that cost?
No.
Their building.
No.
So whatever they do, whatever they want to charge us.
equipment they want to buy.
Stuff they want to buy.
Yeah.
But how do we check to make sure, are we using all of those services that that building now provides? Like, are they buying something that we don't even need, but we're paying for it? I don't know. Yeah,
Well, I think that the theory, I'm sorry, Mike, I think the theory behind this is that it's part of the overall public safety activity, and so we should share the cost. But correct me if I'm wrong, when they chose to build that building, Brookfield did agree to a certain percentage of the cost of the construction of the facility.
Yeah.
It was a fixed amount, as I recall from scattered things that I've read. Frank, you would probably.
It was a warrant article somewhere, it's gotta be in the record somewhere.
And I don't know what the agreement was from that point forward. I mean, I think at that point we were engaged in an agreement with them, but, yeah, so.
It was a fixed cost per year, it was a loan, and we paid our part off early, if I remember rightly.
Okay.
We chose, the selectmen at the time chose to pay our portion off, or maybe just be done with it.
Mhm.
I think we saved some interest by doing that. So,
I don't know. I have
we
no
agreed
idea
to
what-
repay for a percentage of the loan that they used to build that building. My recollection, but again, it's in a warrant article somewhere.
Yeah, but that's done. And as far as I've heard, that's been done for years now, as far as our reimbursement of the building cost.
Now, I'm not sure when that.
Yes. Yeah, it's done. It's not part of the cost.
No, it's
No.
not part of the
Workshop.
No.
Yes.
I'll add one more thing on this, I just, as under calculations, if you, and again, these were the numbers from the last meeting we had, I think they're similar to the numbers were handed out today, but if you add up the cost of what we pay Wakefield for fire, police, ambulance, and sanitation, was $402,000. It's proposed for this year, $402,685, which becomes 31.1% of our current bottom line. So I, again, late in the process to do this now, but for next year, it'd be interesting to look at other town reports from cities our size that have, because all cities have to provide fire, police, some kind of police protection, some kind of ambulance service, and some kind of sanitation thing, is to see where that 31% falls in the realm of, are other towns spending more, are they spending less? If they're spending less, how are they able to spend less? That might just be an interesting research project to do, not have anything to do with budget hearing tonight, but looking, again, as the budget process rolls, every year it rolls forward, and that would be an interesting kind of a metric to look at, to see, are we in line? Are we, this far apart, or are we somehow way out? I think there's a feeling that we're way out of whack with the way we might not be. We might it might not be way out of whack, it might be just what it is. And it would be good to have some additional data to kind of, to see where that really falls. But you need to do it with towns our size, and there are not a lot of towns our size in the situation in the state, but we
But
could
there
probably.
are quite a few small towns. that
Right,
have
so
to
we could probably
outsource
dig out a
that.
few town
Right.
reports and do a little analysis there, it'd be interesting to do. Because we could find out that this, this is not as outrageous as it looks like, or maybe it's way more outrageous, we don't know. Anyway, thought.
Anything else? All right, just want to go over a couple issues with the budget that have come to our attention. It looks, when you look at the bottom line, total appropriations, there seems to be this idea, look, you're going up 20-something, 30-something%. If you look at bottom line only, it looks like that. You need to go to your capital outlay and offset that amount. When you offset that amount for the capital outlay that we're pulling from, really we're only going up in the $30-something thousand range on our overall budget. So when you go to the, right now we have filed with the DRA, the MS 636, for the period ending 12/31/18, our estimated tax to be raised was $701,879. For the period ending 12/31/19, the estimated taxes to be raised is $733,082. So again, it's around $32,000 that our budget has increased with required appropriations. So I just wanted to clarify that, because I just know that even Ernie came up to me, and Ernie's a pretty savvy guy with the budget. We're doing a little different, not having warrants next to everything, because a lot of these expenditures are put into the operating budget, but the money is being accounted for in a capital outlay. So this is not a dollar-to-dollar shift. So we just wanted to make sure that's understood. Even the DRA is showing our appropriations have gone up by around $32,000 for what we needed. So that just needed to be clarified and brought up. Because I know people probably look at the budget online and they go to that bottom line, which a lot of people just do. How much my tax is going up? Well, it's not quite that simple. You need to go back a couple pages to that capital outlay and see what's going on. All right, so no other public comments. We'll close that portion of the budget hearing. And gentlemen, you have anything to add or say?
I think two things that Frank talked about. We get more feedback on roads, second by internet, but roads than any other issue. And we didn't do work last year. The contract, we didn't pull it off. The paving didn't get done. So we really didn't spend money on paving last year, and that's why we doubled up this year, because we have residents that anticipated work to be done. So we scheduled a double up this year with no impact to the tax rate, because the money wasn't spent last year. Internet, people keep asking us to do something. You're right, we don't have any firm plan right now, but the lawyer is currently negotiating with other towns to figure out how we're going to move forward. It could be a matching grant situation. If we don't have the money in place, we wait another year. So we're trying to deal with the feedback we're getting from the people in town, do something to provide internet, and try to position ourselves with $25,000 that maybe would help us move forward. You're right, if we don't spend it, it goes back to the general fund. They might say we're not going to do anything, we don't know, but they're actively negotiating, and the goal is they have an update for town meeting. They met last Monday, the lawyer met with Spectrum.
So that's new news. Again, I don't disagree with the town helping support building out the internet infrastructure in town. It's just that we don't know if the 25,000, they might come back and they say they want $1 million. I mean, we don't know if that number's even the right number to use. So it's just kind of like throwing something, it's like and I understand your need to meet the needs, the demands you're getting from citizens about internet. It's doing something, but is it really doing something?
But we could do nothing,
Yeah.
right? And say, we don't know what's going to happen, we'll wait a year.
But let's say that if Spectrum does come back So if we do know something from Spectrum before town meeting, what you just said, and the number's bigger than that, can we amend that line at town meeting?
Sure.
Okay.
I really kind of closed public comments, but okay, go ahead, Dan.
Oh, I'm sorry. So just following up that line of conversation, I'm one of those people who don't have internet, wired internet, so I'm in support of it. I think that I don't know that it needs to be the 25,000. Maybe just some seed money to get it started. And I don't know. I think that there needs to be, it needs to be open-ended enough so that that money could be spent on anything related to this effort to improve internet. It could be hiring a consultant to give us an analysis of what is the best way to improve that access for the entire community.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to go to Spectrum. In fact, I would argue that it shouldn't, but I don't know. I think that it's a wise thing to do, and I appreciate the
And the way
putting it in
we
it.
specifically drafted the warrant was to put it in there without designating the money, sort of, pay Spectrum or build infrastructure. These are things that we just don't know what's gonna happen. And it's like I'm driving down the highway looking in my rearview mirror, no one's got cable, but what's ahead of me? How is it gonna come out? I don't know. And is money gonna be the fix? Maybe not. But is 25,000 the right amount? Or should it be more? Should it be less? I don't know. And then I hear Frank saying, his neighbor saying, well, look, if you don't have a tough life, go get it yourself. Well, he probably has cable and internet, that guy, so.
And in fact, they do.
Yeah, so it's so
I was
easy to
giving you a
say.
preview of what you might hear tonight.
Right, no, but it's so easy to
Not my
say,
opinion.
fix it yourself. It's like, no, it's not that easy. That'd be like saying, I don't have electricity, well, get your own electricity. It's a problem, and it's been echoed by several residents, real estate agents, people trying to sell that don't have it, and they're like, sales are falling through, and it diminishes the property value in that part of the town as well. Rick?
Frank, I recall, you were on the cable committee, right?
I was, yes, I was.
Just for reference, if you can recall, what was the thinking behind dead-ending that wire at the camp and the farm? And just leaving that blank for, a mile and a half up Route 109?
At the time, we were dealing with the Delphia engineers before they went bankrupt. This is before Time Warner. And we had to get signed, we did signed, non-binding agreements from everybody on Lyford Road and everybody up Stoneham Road. We got enough houses that say, if you put cable in, we will take cable. And that's all they were looking for. And there was not, we tried to get some citizens along 109 to help with that, and there just wasn't people pounding on doors like we did on Lyford and like we did on, it's as simple as that. And they really didn't like the big gap that goes from here, from the town line, goes that way. There's only like at that time, that was before Godero built at least that one extra house up there. There were only like 3 houses for, a mile up towards Camp Road. Up towards, whatever it's called now, Lane, Year Street. And they just said, the engineer just said, we won't even talk about that. Because it's too long a stretch without anything. Because they knew what their company policy was.
It's just not like connecting a railroad.
And we were surprised when they showed up, after Time Warner took over, we had talked to Time Warner, are you gonna do the project? And they said, no, it's on hold. And then all of a sudden, one day the truck showed up. We have no idea, I have no personal idea why they came and actually did Stoneham and Lyford, but it's mainly because it was all engineered and they had these old agreements. Somebody just decided to do it. I don't know if there's political pressure or what, but I still to this day don't know. I thought it was dead. I thought it was dead. And then all of a sudden, what was it, 2 years later after Time Warner was when all of a sudden one day there's a truck on the pole in front of my house.
And that was how many years ago?
8,
A
9
lot,
years
a
ago.
lot,
Yeah.
yeah, this is.
It was,
this is
all of a sudden, we got flyers in our mailbox and we
Yeah.
saw the trucks and we were jumping for joy.
Yeah, having nothing to do with the budget tonight, but on this same topic, I'm started to do a little research. I'm going to probably put in suggest the planning board put in a zoning change for next year that adds a clause to the personal wireless facility part of our zoning ordinance, which might have a negative impact on broadband expansion in the town, to allow the ZBA to grant special exceptions where public need is. In other words, if somebody wants to put up a broadband tower, if that technology comes along, our zoning is not going to be an impediment to those projects. I'm going to try and, that's just one little thing, but it all might, you never know what might help solve a problem.
Okay, now, last one.
Sorry. Frank alluded to a little bit to what I'm about to ask as a question. There are an awful lot of activities that are going to be funded through this budget, which they're activities that I think that have either been on hold or just need to be done. And I know that in the last year or two, that projects that had been planned for a whole variety of reasons didn't come to fruition. Every time we put these in the budget, it's a hit to our tax rate. So is there an expectation, a realistic expectation that these projects are going to get done?
You're referring to the road projects?
Well, road and the townhouse issues and, other
The townhouse seems to
big
be
ticket
almost,
items.
the townhouse seems to be almost locked up completely.
Good.
We have a contractor, Laurie, just about wanting to start now. The road projects, we've worked with the road agent saying, we don't want you to go and start talking to pavers in August. We want you to talk to them in April. We want to get on the list right away. We know Bryce is ready to go. We know Pike is ready to go. And what's the other road looking to do? Then we have all those other little special projects as well, the aprons and the hills.
Yeah.
So we want to be on the list in April. So we're not getting last second tar or we're getting cut. So it's some of these bigger projects that the painting project, in hindsight, I'm glad it didn't happen because painting that wood is a bad idea in my opinion. So the idea is these projects are intended to get done.
Okay.
And, and that's why we're trying to utilize the capital reserve funds in order to avoid those hits, because at least the money will be there next year for when that project will come to fruition, hopefully.
We were in queue last year, we were on the list, and he didn't get to us, he cited labor issues. He couldn't get people to run his equipment, the owner was running the paver himself. So it stands to reason that we're still on the list, Eddie's been in contact with them, and this should be one of the first towns he comes to. Because he assured us that they were gonna do it last year.
Is that Carol?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it fell through, resulting in weather at the end. Just ran out of time.
All right, we need to read through warrant article number 2, which is a petition warrant article. Do you approve having 2 sessions for the annual town meeting in this town? The first session for choice of town officers elected by official ballot and other actions required to be inserted on said official ballot. And the second session on the date set by the selectmen for transaction of other town business. Right now that was submitted by ballot and...
Was it petitioned? That was the petitioned?
Yes, I said right from the beginning.
Yeah.
So right now that's going to be on the ballot. And the question is, would the selectmen go ahead and recommend this warrant?
I say yes. Doesn't guarantee it's changed, it just gives you the authority to change.
That's right, we just have to make a statement
Yep.
of the date of the town meeting.
Yep.
So it sounds like we are, I agree as well. So we will be saying that the selectmen will recommend this warrant article. Sound right?
Yep.
Okay. So Laurie, can we make that mod to that? Were there any other issues with any of the warrants? I think we're good on everything else.
The only other comment is on, I think you mentioned it, we don't have warrant articles pulling money out for specific projects. It's in the operating budget, where we're agents to expend, and when it's coming out of a trust fund, we are required to spend it only for the purpose of that trust fund.
Yeah.
So that's, well, you don't see a lot of warrant articles.
Yeah, like the old way we used to do it, we changed. Yes, Frank?
Sorry, I know, one last thing, on the internet one, the way I read it is, you could use the 25,000, your agents to expend, you could use it for consultants, if that would help us get internet. I mean,
Consultants,
it's
lobbyists,
open-ended,
attorneys, yes.
So, that money could be, I'm gonna change my opinion, but anyway.
No,
I want to challenge.
I get your trepidation on it, because it's like we're just, like we're trying to smother a fire with money, and that's not the case.
Yeah.
We're trying to anticipate.
I understand, and I absolutely understand.
And that's why the town meeting's gonna be a great place.
Has negative economic impacts on the town.
Yep,
Yeah.
and that's why town meeting's gonna be a great place to talk it through, because, we're not the judge and jury of it, we're proposing, and the town has the final say, so. All right, so I'm gonna say that we go ahead and close the public hearing on the budget, if no one else has anything else to add. All right, and then we'll kick into Board of Selectmen meeting
Well, we
mode.
recommend this budget be presented to the town.
Oh, yes, I thought.
Yep.
I will,
You closed it, right, but we're just.
I will close it. The budget as drafted was gonna be recommended at the town meeting.
Yep.
The warrants as drafted are, that one little revision, or it's gonna be the way it goes through. Okay. All right, now Board of Selectmen mode here. All right, our scheduled speakers have come and gone. We just got a set of minutes from February 5th, 2019, with some non-public minutes that we agreed to seal for a year, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
I move we accept the select minutes for February 5th as written.
Here, a second.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okey doke. Okay.
Did you get that letter from Craig?
No, I didn't print it out.
It's in the box.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Recommendation?
Yeah, great, oh, good, thank you. All right, public comments. Yes, Frank.
Due to the nature of the weather we've been having lately, I've made several trips with my 3 buckets to avail myself of sand for safety.
Mm-hmm.
And on 2 occasions, I've encountered the fact that you could play pond hockey out there in front of that. So it's the ice, you had to get out of your car very, very carefully. I actually kind of slid out of the car into the salt shed and then took sand and then spread it back out so I could walk safely, carry the sand back. It would be fairly easy for the road agent, if when they come in with the truck, when they're out sanding, it's just to make a pass.
Just
by
to
there.
drop a little bit.
Because if somebody does slip and fall and hurt themselves, I don't know what the liability situation is, but I imagine there could be some liability.
It'd be thicker than
Because
iron.
it kind of dips down there and it was like.
I threw some more sand out this morning, I went to get
And
my
I've
sand.
done it a couple times too, which I don't mind doing, but it's just somebody that isn't watching gets out, slips and conks their head on the car or something like that, then.
I will bring that up
Could
to
be a
Eddie,
problem.
that, if, when he's dropping it, can he drop a little extra, or just throw a few shovels around just
Yeah,
to.
because the last, when I went this past weekend, I think, is, they had just reloaded it, it was perfect, very nicely dumped, and then it was a sheet of ice out there.
That ice went from bad to worse this weekend, so.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, no, I think it's worth just a quick
Huh?
mention.
I picked it up after you did, I guess.
Because I spread sand down. Yeah. Anyway, just a comment about a potential safety issue
I
on
appreciate
town
it.
property.
I'd request while you're talking to him to recommend that he heavily sands the entire property, because even out front here, it's treacherous. We've had a couple of casualties tonight.
He did come now, and he sanded the whole thing heavily, he said.
Price of the building.
Yeah, and he does the spreader, he tries it, when I seen it, he does try to get the edge. I think the fresh snow on top of the ice, it just got really, really bad, but, yeah, the ice this year just,
Yep, and bad.
yes, Dan?
I wanted to bring up an issue about town report, make a recommendation. I found in the last month or so in reviewing old town reports, looking for agents to expend and all sorts of other things, that, and I didn't make a photocopy or a printout of which year, I don't even remember, didn't write down what year it was. But what I did, with my point here is that at one time, the town report had, at least the one that I remember very clearly, the inside cover was errata or corrections to the previous year's town report. And I thought that that was helpful, because lots of times you go back and forth, you see what somebody did historically, and then you hit some kind of snag, and well, how did this happen? And then, well, maybe the following year you could see that something was corrected. And the point that I have specifically about this is that a part of our town report last year was incorrect. I had asked preparers to correct it before they posted it to the town report, and they didn't, because they considered that to be the factual information from that year. However, it misrepresents, you know what I'm talking about, the trustees of the trust fund. It misrepresented completely what happened with trust funds that year, in the corrected mode. So, and then, unfortunately, it appears that there's a similar issue this year, and hopefully, I'll be attending their meeting this Thursday. I hope that somebody else from the board who has authority will be there, because
We're
I'm...
gonna be there, but I've also brought those issues to their attention, asking them to review and either explain or make revisions.
Okay.
So I try to give them the adequate time prior to the
Perfect.
Thursday meeting, so.
Excellent, yeah, hopefully it'll be correct, but whether it's on their page for the correction noted for the previous year, I mean, they're gonna need to explain, at least in the 2018 report, why all of those withdrawals came out when they weren't in the warrant article for the year, for last year.
Mhm.
So, just for historical purposes, I think we know, because we're in the moment.
Yep.
I think that when there's anomalies, that they should be noted in the report.
And when you said, when you opened it, was it literally the back of the cover?
And that was when they were the little books.
Oh, okay.
And,
Those, yeah.
yeah, so you could have it anywhere.
You used to put it in, you have to have it
Okay,
in. Yeah.
It was just stapled
Yeah.
inside the cover.
yeah.
But you mean when they come out, instead of having it part of the printing?
If we couldn't get to the printer,
Oh, yeah.
then we would just staple the corrections to the cover.
Okay, thank you,
Thank you.
that's it.
All right, no public comments? Treasurer?
I don't have anything, other than I have some bills and, more payroll checks, because everybody didn't get their time in last week, imagine. So,
Okay.
we'll do that at some point.
Tax collector, Rose, I didn't ask you to do anything, but you have any tax collector?
Nothing to report.
Okay, thank you. Admin?
We had our edit meeting today for the annual report. We're winding up, just waiting for those hopefully new spreadsheets. from
Thursday,
the-
yeah, hopefully.
Yep, and then it will be out to the printer next week.
Okay. Excellent. Planning board.
Our scheduled planning board meeting, which was going to be all related to the master plan, did not occur because we did not have a quorum.
But you don't need a quorum for that. As long as you're not making a decision, you can have working meetings.
Well, it was not posted as a work session or a subgroup. There was no vote of the board to create a subcommittee, so we considered the whole board was going to meet.
Understand.
And our next meeting is the 21st.
Okay, thank you. Code enforcement officer. Just as a side note, we are looking for a new code enforcement officer. We have some potential candidates that will be, hopefully have that position filled in the very near future. Road agent is out on the roads, taking care of roads. Conservation Commission,
The Conservation Commission met a week ago, and we briefly discussed that the selectmen might be asking us to help implement some of the recommendations that were in the forestry plan for the town reserve, and we're going to take that up at our next meeting and talk about how to go forward. There were recommendations on doing some mowing and perhaps asking Alan Fredericks to maybe just do it for us if he would be willing to do that, or get volunteers or whatever, and also the potential of going back to the forester and actually starting to implement some of the selective harvesting recommendations that are in that plan for the health of the forest. So we will be, assuming the selectmen still want us to kind of keep an eye on that, we'll be taking that up at our next meeting. Any actual contracts with the forester or anything has to come through you guys, but we would come to you with a recommendation, say, yeah, we recommend that you go forward with the plan. And by the way, he's waiting for your phone call or whatever. So.
excellent. Heritage,
Heritage Commission, the next meeting is next Wednesday, February 20th. So we have a lot on our plate this year.
and at 6 p.m.
6 p.m. here at the town office.
Cemetery trustees. We did get a letter from Craig Evans for the trustees. Several months ago, David Newman of Kate's Lane expressed interest in being appointed as an alternate to the cemetery trustees. He would fill the one position for alternate that is open. The 3 trustees are in agreement that David would be an excellent choice for this position and request that you appoint him to this position at your meeting 12 February 2019. Thank you for your consideration. Great.
In addition, Pam Skeffington's name is on the ballot to fill the open trustee position. So they'll have a full trustees, full group.
All right. You want to do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we accept the recommendation.
That's what I was waiting for.
All right.
Because if you didn't, I was going to say.
Kick me.
All right, I'll second the motion. We accept David Newman. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Laurie, will you respond to Craig first? You want the letter back? Thank you. Any other?
Anybody else cold? I'm freezing. I'm sitting here shaking.
Oh, I see. It's on rich mode.
Thank you, Brian.
Well, we'll wait and see.
Oh, take my sweater off. Okay. So cemetery trustees done. All right. So any other boards or committees?
Yep, ZBA. I just point out that since the ZBA members are appointed, not elected, that there's at least 1 or 2, I think, need to be reappointed in March, just a reminder. And the board has no specific recommendations at this time.
Okay, any other boards or committees? Seeing none? Well, we took care of old business, CEO opening, I did mention that. Anything else you guys want to add to that? No? Okay. Cemetery trustee alternate appointment, that's been completed. Phone system.
Yeah, I think it's time for us to make the move on the phone system. And we got the proposal from Teletechniques, $3,900. It gives us all the features we need, multiple mailboxes, especially with the new code enforcement officer coming on board. How are we gonna reach them? How are we gonna reach the planning board? How are you gonna reach the ZBA? Everybody will have their own mailbox. So I think it's time for us to move forward with
And
it.
it works with a simple call-in remote, like a remote call-in feature, like I can call into my mailbox from my house.
Yes, you can.
Yes.
Okay.
It does all the standard.
That's exactly what we need, because people don't pop in here all the time, but they can check their voicemail a couple times a week at least.
And what did you say, Richard, notifies? Will
For
notify?
some specific mailboxes, and we have to decide which mailboxes, it could be the selectmen. When a voicemail is left in the mailbox, it's immediately forwarded to contacts as a voicemail. So you leave it in the mailbox, and if we decide the selectmen are gonna be notified immediately, within seconds, we'll each get that voicemail delivered to our phone
That's a pretty cool feature.
As a text or,
as a voicemail.
oh,
So it's read out to you, but it still stays in the mailbox until someone actually deletes it. Some nice features like that are built into the system. We have to decide who gets those notifications. So I make a motion that we move forward with this.
Second.
Any further discussion?
What was the cost?
$3,900.
No further discussion? Oh, I'm sorry, no further discussion, all in favor, say aye. Oh, wait, time?
Just one little discussion, if I remember rightly, that's $3,900, and then the annual cost is not very much, right? for them?
There is no continuing cost. It's a
Oh, I thought there was
one-shot
a
deal.
they,
If they come in, it's $100 per hour if we need them.
okay, fine, good, thank you.
So it's a one,
Yeah, that's, I just wanted to clarify that. I
Take the
remembered
hit,
that.
take the
It's-
hit.
That's a, yeah.
Diane?
Good.
is that the budget?
yes.
Yes.
Mhm. Okay,
So all in favor, say aye.
Aye. You want to talk to them, or want me to talk to them?
I don't care. I'm out tomorrow, and Thursday, kind
Oh, well. Sorry, I got his number. Okay.
All right, last new business item is meet the candidates.
It'll be closed.
And the comment is, are we going to have a coffee, at our coffee on the 23rd? Or are we going to invite the candidates to come and introduce themselves and maybe talk a little bit about what they want to accomplish?
Good idea.
I don't think it's a good thing. Like the past few elections, we haven't had many contested races, so it's been not the, it wasn't necessary, but there's some contested races and, some new faces, so that wouldn't hurt.
Should we send a letter inviting the candidates from the contested races?
Yes, absolutely. I think we invite them all. I think we could ask Laurie to maybe send a quick letter out to them. We have the addresses already, because when they filled out their application,
Right.
they put the addresses down, so just a quick note, we could ask the moderator to see, oversee it. We should send him a note. If he can't do it, we'll get the assistant moderator.
Ed?
I don't have one.
Just make sure it goes in the newspapers.
Now, I make a suggestion, you schedule for 9 o'clock.
Well, I guess my thoughts were, the coffee starts at 8, let's meet the candidates at 9:15, something like that, right?
9:15, okay.
Something so
Yeah,
everybody
no, that's
can,
all,
they
just
can
9
min-
o'clock.
you can mingle and
Because
then,
we seem to have the biggest crowd around 9 o'clock.
Yeah, it peaks at 9 and
Yeah.
tails off.
of. So that's for the coffee.
23rd.
Okay.
So I think the idea of an ad is not a bad idea. We can post on the internet, obviously. Letters go out, do the coffee board sign. Is it worth putting an ad in the paper, or is
We're
that,
running out of time.
It won't be in the paper until the 21st.
that's not gonna do us much good?
We'll put it on the web, and we'll try to get the sign board out, right?
Yeah,
We
so,
can do that.
put it on top of the stove bank.
Enough.
Do you still want it in the paper or
I
no?
don't think it's worth it.
It won't make it.
Okay. Any other new business we want to discuss? Bueller. Okay, seeing none. There's no I don't think we have any non-public we need to discuss. And-
Oh, yeah, there's one thing.
Ah,
What are we doing with this code enforcement officer? Did, you met with him?
Yes.
You met with the candidate?
Yeah, I interviewed. Yeah, I would recommend them. We go non-public for that, or we just do it? I recommend we set a date for him to come in and show him around and discuss the responsibility.
To hire him.
Yeah.
We only had one candidate, right? And he's got some good paper. I mean, I've read the resume. It looks like he's,
Certainly qualified, and he's gonna have a lot of support. Three builders in town, including Eddie, offered to support and fill in the event that the building inspector happened to get a job in Brookfield, so there'll be no conflict of interest. They would come in and inspect the inspector all at no cost to the town.
And Eddie's willing to cross-train them, so that's helpful as well.
And you met, Rick, you met with him, so you get the
Yes.
interview?
Jessica's willing to stand and do his paperwork and keep him organized logistically, so it might just work and just pay him the standard rate of $5,000 a year, right?
Well, we haven't talked to him about that. I think
Okay, that's
we have to,
why I'm
I think
asking.
we have to, that's what's in the budget, but I think we have to have that discussion. Does he want to go per diem? Does he want to go per job? Does he want to?
He wants to go for 5,000.
I think we just think that it's cleaner, simple,
All right.
you know.
So he realizes that he didn't do the job for 1 month, so he won't get,
I'm sure he won't, yeah, he'll get that.
We'll work that out.
okay,
Um,
just making.
Now, my only other question is, how intensive is Eddie's training gonna be? And if it is, are we gonna be paying him for extra time?
Eddie's training is gonna be ongoing.
So is it gonna be just,
If he needs help.
so is
Yes,
Eddie's
questions.
training gonna be like a volunteer type just thing, or are we gonna be paying him for his time, or?
We can talk to Eddie. I was under the impression that, well, let's talk to Eddie.
Okay, I'll talk to Eddie about that.
The two other builders, Gary Chickaroni and Mike Saltis, offered to volunteer their help at no cost to the town.
Okay.
So we make a motion to offer him the job?
I'll motion to offer the job.
Okay.
So can you just, and what was his name again?
Nick Angelo.
Nick Angelo? And we'll be offering the job starting immediately with pay of $5,000 annual, right?
Yes.
Can you send him a letter? You do that, who sends the letter? Would you send the letter?
I'll send, I need his information, but if
Yeah.
somebody sends me his information,
All right, I'll second the motion.
He's gonna get by Marilou, maybe we can't.
All right, so I second the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Point of information, is he a town resident?
Yes.
That was our preference. Yeah. Good.
okay, so if you have nothing else, I have paychecks and I can read your bills. 10 construction, plowing, sanding, salting, 122 to 29, 10,401.50. The Heritage Commission has membership with the New Hampshire Preservation Alliance, and so those dues are $50 a year. Carroll County, we owe $2. That's the registry.
Oh, there's another document. I'm sorry.
Civic Plus, for the annual hosting of the website, we owe $1,500. For the Wolfboro Police Department, $426. White Mountain Oil, $872.41.
Another one? We get a monthly.
They really like us, this was February too. And then Morton Salt, we had a delivery in February for $1,791.05. The tax collector is requesting reimbursement for all the town envelopes she bought, $919.90. And then we owe $20 for the domain name renewal for 1 year. That's all.
I make a motion, we accept the bills as read on the record by Marilou.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye. I got one more thing, hold on, guys. There's a correct change tax. You have to sign.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question?
Go right ahead.
The domain registration. We had asked the question of why we were paying, how much is it, number one? Why are we paying?
$20.
Oh, it's 20. Because you can pay, you know, a year, pay for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years.
Yeah, it's a 1-year domain renewal of Brookfield NH.org, the domain name. It expires 3/6/19, so.
We typically have done it in 1-year increments. Like the last time I talked to him, it could be a little cheaper for us if we went to the 5-year plan, but
Yeah, 20 bucks.
I don't know, it's just $20.
Just a small historical note, I owned that domain because I got it before anybody else did, and then I donated it to the town, but I was the original registrar of that domain. Before a lot of people down knew what domain names were.
We've got a current use change tax that we have to sign. And I'll make a motion that we authorize the tax collector to collect this current use change tax. We have to sign someplace. For $30,000.
That's coming.
Came out of current use. That's why I wanted to get it.
How'd you know it was there?
Today's date, the
Tuesday, 12th.
12.
I think we have to sign 2 places, huh? Yeah,
Want to change the budget?
it's in the budget.
Yeah, we knew this one was coming.
Ah.
That's the one you put in a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. So property owners are Paul Avery and Deborah Avery, Newbury, Mass. The project location is Down Dick Road, map 28, lot 17. So just for the minutes, want to read that one?
It's one of the lake lots, Frank.
Mm-hmm.
The lake lot.
Plug you in.
Thank you.
Do we have one of the copies of the forest management plan back in the office?
I think there's 2 in there.
2?
I thought so.
Frank, they were returned, yes,
I did return one, it's there. It was.
Just asking.
and they're on the web.
And it's posted on the web.
Yeah, Laurie scanned it out for us.
Except the one on the web does not have the main map as a PDF.
Okay.
So if you want to look at the map, it's in the ones in there.
Did you say 2 places? I couldn't find it, I found one.
Yeah, I think when the current use is only one, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
All right. Any good public comments before we close up for the night? Well, I'm sorry, I didn't. Seeing none, meeting adjourned.
Give it to Diana.